Welcome to Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing, one of the fastest growing real estate investing podcasts in the world. What if you could learn from experienced real estate investors? Find out what got them to where they are now. Get insight into their daily habits and take these insights to inspire your own growth. Each episode, Jonathan Greene shares an in-depth look at the mindful approach to real estate investing. Jonathan is a lifelong real estate investor and the founder of Streamline, a data-driven, investor-friendly, independent real estate brokerage located in Madison, New Jersey. Whether you're looking to start from scratch, get to the next level, or just for a straightforward and honest approach to real estate investing, this is the free mentorship program you can take with you anywhere. Now, here's Jonathan.
Welcome back to another episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investment, and we're going down the short-term rental rabbit hole with the design focus. This is going to be a fun one. Higher nightly rates start with better design. Somerled's framework is designed based on research, theme tones, local inspiration, stand out on Airbnb and Vrbo, and amenities. My guest today is Bri West. Let's get to it. This is episode 314 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Bri West. Bri is one of the owners of Somerled Designs. They design short-term rentals that produce higher revenue, attract more bookings, and stand out in competitive markets. Bri, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jonathan. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. I love talking short-term rentals because after all of these years out of the game, I'm preparing to get back into the game. So I'm sure we'll talk about that. But how did you get into short-term rentals?
Yeah, I mean, it actually started with me getting into the game. So
I figured,
I've been investing in real estate for over 10 years, but specifically short-term rentals for 5 years. So I was doing long-term rentals, and I kind of background on myself. I have a marketing degree and worked a long time in marketing. And so my husband and I were doing the long-term rental real estate investing. And then we kind of stumbled upon short-term rental investing, which got me really excited from a marketing perspective.
It's so much different with your background. Like long-term rentals are they're boring is good, but they're boring.
They're reliable. They're reliable, but zero marketing effort needed. I mean, you need to make a listing, and then you find tenants, and you're good to go for a year plus.
Yeah, and you can put up anything with any photos, and it gets 90 leads in the first hour. You know, it's just rentals.
People are begging you to rent your property, which is great. Yes, but it is boring, and it's not as you know, if you're in the short-term rental game, it's not as hands-on. Yeah. But we were in a position where we could go hands-on, and there's a higher cash flow opportunity, which we were excited about. So we started in the short-term rental space. We actually invested in Phoenix first, was our first market. Yeah. I'm local to Utah, but that was, a market that's close to us, but still a good market. Back then, it wasn't as saturated. It's getting more saturated now. So we started in that. And I was super excited to get into this game because of the marketing aspect. I knew how to market for a variety of businesses, and I took those same principles and applied it to my short-term rental. So I looked at the competition in the area. I looked at what's working, what amenities people are offering, what type of traveler are coming to the area, who is the most likely to book, and also who's the most likely to book at a premium value, and created a marketing strategy for our first property. But I'm actually not an interior designer. So that's where my business partner, now Jordan, she was a good friend at the time, and now she's my business partner. She went the interior design route and was a super talented interior designer. So I asked her if she could help me out, and I knew she was so busy, but luckily she said yes. Yeah. And she actually came down to Phoenix, and we had so much fun designing this property. I had the strategy first and said, here's the direction I want to go in. I want it to look like this and feel like this. Here's the brand that I have for the property. And she then just took it to the next level with the design. So we did that on a few of my properties. And then in the short-term rental community, we had some people asking, me and my husband specifically, how are we finding so much success? And it really just came down to standing out, which design is a huge factor in standing out. So people were asking for our services, and very organically, we started offering this service of strategic design. And quickly we realized that there was a gap in the space, that there weren't a lot of design firms who were so strategic. They could just make things look pretty, but they weren't going in with an investment background, a marketing background, and just maximizing, like the goal really is to maximize the investment and spend where there's high impact. And so that's when Somerled was born. just 3 years ago. And now fast forward to today, we design over 70 properties every single month in every
Wow.
single market across the US.
That's awesome.
And we have over 1,500 designs behind us, which has been really interesting to go back and look at all that data and use information to just even get better year over year with every new design.
Yeah, and that's one of the most important parts because short-term rentals do change every year and markets change every year. Like you said, one market could become more saturated, so you have to stand out even more. Once people see your playbook, we know which is the best thing about it. You said before, you can basically look at all of your competition on AirDNA and see what they're doing and what amenities they have, or even just straight on Airbnb. That's what's great about it. But then when you guys put out beautiful designs, people can try to copy it. So you still always have to be innovating in each market, right?
No, absolutely. And the guest expectation is going up
Oh,
significantly.
yes,
Like
yeah.
it's a hockey stick of where
Yeah,
it
it really
started
is. Yeah.
with the Airbnb platform. It actually, I'm pretty sure Brian Chesky, the CEO and founder of Airbnb, called it Airbnb because it started with air mattresses on his
Yeah.
floor in San Francisco, right? So
Yes. Yeah.
take that to what it is today. The guest expectation is ever increasing. So we as hosts need to level up, which is a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, design is really market specific because, like you said, you're in all 50 states, but you can't do the Scottsdale playbook in North Dakota. Like, it's just not the same thing. And nature stays aren't the same as like Main Street stays, right? There's a lot of geographical dynamics that go into providing a design that's going to win in that market.
Right. And that's what's really interesting is when you're looking at the target audience, you're looking at what are their reasons for travel? What's their motivation? Because we as humans travel to so many different locations and we want a different experience in all those different
Yeah.
locations.
Yeah.
Like if
It's a good
I'm
point.
going to Park City with my family, that looks like a different vacation than if I'm going to Nashville with my girlfriends.
Yeah.
One is cozy and connection and more stay in. One is I want to get out, I want to have fun, I want to take a bunch of videos. And you just have to understand what is the reason, what are the motives. And then that's just the whole marketing game is meet people where their motives are and sell them an experience that they weren't even looking for. That's beyond their expectation. So they're willing to not only book your property, but book it at probably a higher dollar amount than they initially wanted to
Yeah.
book a stay, but they just are so intrigued by it, they can't turn away and there's no other better option for them.
Yeah, that's why the collaboration between you and Jordan, your partner, is so important because the marketing, you can have great marketing, but if they show up and then it markets something and the design falls flat, even though the pictures looked okay, you're going to get a bad review. Like these two things are tied together. And, there's a lot of shortcuts out there. And I'm sure this is where you guys are able to succeed over those because the shortcuts always fall flat because they're not doing a whole marketing, branding, and design all together.
No, exactly. You got to think of it as this is your business, and no business owner would take shortcuts when it comes to the marketing and the sales of their business. I think a lot of investors kind of skip that step and think that design and amenities are these big expenses, but they're actually an investment
Yeah.
in the overall
Yeah.
return. You're going to get a higher return. And also you got to think about how the the industry is getting more competitive. All these markets are getting more saturated. So it's not only that you have to compete in today's landscape. If you want it up and successful for 5 years, you need to be thinking ahead. So
Yeah.
there are steps that you need to take, even down to working with us as specific short-term rental designers. We're thinking through longevity, but then also balancing price points. We don't need name brand expensive pieces, but there are certain areas of the home that are high traffic
Yeah.
that you do want to invest into a nicer, it doesn't need to be a name brand, but a nicer piece that will last, withstand the test of time. And then there's places where you can save and you don't need to splurge on a nightstand, for example, or even thinking through rugs. You could get me down this whole rabbit hole of why every piece and selection is so important for the look and the marketing of it, but then also the property management side to make
Yeah.
sure you're not, struggling later on when you have to replace things over and over again.
Right. Yeah, durability is huge for short-term rentals and people getting into the game who maybe have a very good design sense for themselves, don't understand the durability portion and get through, 8.3 stays and now their couch is ruined because they were just thinking nice, it looks great, but it can get ruined easily. And that's same with choices in terms of what you're doing for renovations for short-term rentals. Do you guys participate in renovations for getting them ready, or are you strict in the design marketing and help them kind of get it set for what they need to do?
Yeah, so we're not licensed general contractors, so we won't have our team go in and
Right,
actually facilitate the renovation, but we will make those recommendations and work with general contractors to
right,
say,
right.
you know, it is a balance of what is your business like plan? Do you want this just to be a high cash flowing asset? Or are you looking to refinance or sell in the near future?
Yeah,
And we're going to ask our clients, like, what are their motivations and like, what is their plan? Because if they're telling us that they want to refinance or sell, that's a different plan because we need to go in and update some kitchens, potentially update bathrooms and make those suggestions because that leads to higher equity in the home.
yeah,
Versus if you want high cash flowing, then we're going to just do these cosmetic updates and not do major renovation in the kitchens and the bathrooms because unlike long-term rentals, people don't care as much about the kitchen and the bathrooms because they're not living there. They're
yeah.
just going there for a few days and they want more of the experiential spaces like the game rooms and the backyards rather than a super nice kitchen with nice appliances. So there are different roads that people take and we're going to meet people where their investment goals are. But we will touch renovations, especially on amenities like backyard renovations,
Yeah, yeah.
adding in those pickleball courts, adding in putting greens, those things that really are just the showstoppers when it comes to the photos and sell your property.
Yeah, and it creates that usability, like you said, that is different between the stay. If you're in a downtown spot, you know that people are going to be out most of the time. So you can get with a smaller backyard and maybe have like, one putt hole or something just for fun, but they don't need as much as if they're literally going to a place where it's kind of remote and they're not going to leave much, over a week.
Exactly.
Those are two different amenity packages that you're going to dial up.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's just the property type too. We need to do research on the property because we're not choosing the property for our investors. They're coming to us with either they're under contract
Yeah.
or maybe they have an existing home that is, they're finding they have diminishing returns and they need to reinvest into the design.
Yeah.
And so we're working with what we have, but we will maximize, the property that we have. But let's take, for example, those small homes in downtown areas. We do a lot of Nashville,
Mm.
properties, which are those
Yeah.
tall and skinny buildings. And it's great location is everything in Nashville. So if you're near Broadway, that's amazing. But still on the home, we want to create a good experience. And it's so saturated in Nashville that we still
Yeah.
need it to stand out and create an experience. So every wall is like a canvas to create these unique photo opportunities because what we know about most Nashville travelers are they're coming for a good time and an
Yeah. Group
experience. They
stays.
want to
Yeah.
take those pictures. And so even in the bedrooms, creating these photo op moments are really important just to maximize every wall and every space. But then, like you said, a property that's more remote and it's more like this retreat, we need to create amenities where they want to stay. And it's not just beds to sleep on, but there's opportunity for them to, maybe do a yoga session, a
Yeah.
pickleball court with their family, even wedding venues. People are in the short-term rental space are getting into providing some wedding venue opportunities for their guests.
Yeah, and I feel like people forget that marketing goes outside of just what you're doing for marketing. So if you set up, like you said, you have some place where that's a good picture spot in each room, that means that each person can post that on their socials and you're getting free advertising. Their friends are saying, wait, where is that? I want to go to Nashville and I want to stay specifically there. And that's outside of what you would traditionally put into your initial marketing package. And what a lot of new operators don't think of as, hey, how much can design matter? I mean, it can matter so exponentially based on what people are sharing.
Yeah. And that kind of adds on to we provide a branding service, which I love. It was very early on that we decided this makes so much sense. And it's where I saw the industry going are the direct booking websites and the
Yeah,
social media presence because it's a unique business where there's not a lot of brand recognition. You could book a great stay on Airbnb, but then you couldn't find it again to recommend it to a friend or a
yeah.
family or maybe book it again the next year. It's hard to go back and find listings. But when you have brand recognition, not only does it instill more trust where people look at that and say, oh, this host is legit. They know what they're doing. So we've all had that bad host experience and
Oh,
we want
yeah. Oof.
trust us, but it also creates an opportunity to have them post on social media, like you said, or remember you and refer you out. So branding is really key. And I've implemented that. So I'm back up to like my investing journey. I actually now own 34 short-term rental properties. We went really
Wow.
all in on the short-term
Yeah.
rental game, and we have properties across the country. Every one of my homes has a unique brand, but my social media presence, I don't have 34 Instagrams. I have one Instagram for all of my properties in that
Yeah.
umbrella brand, but then each home is unique and has a name and a look and a feel and a different like reason for travel. But the same audience could go to multiple, different of my homes because they want a cabin experience or a
Yeah.
beach experience. And it's all under one umbrella brand.
Do they have separate websites for each one for direct booking, or are you using, Airbnb as the marketing channel?
I have just a one direct booking website, and then all the properties are on
Oh,
that
okay.
website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So same social strategy for direct booking that way. I think that's smart too, because it's just how many different things can you possibly manage? You can have 34 social accounts. That would be insane.
Yeah. And something that we've done too, we realized, we wanted to diversify our investment portfolio, but also we're looking at, risk mitigation because some people will get cold feet when it comes to short-term rentals because of all the regulations
Yeah.
and people, in 2020, COVID was just a weird thing, especially for short-term rentals. People were gravitating to short-term rentals, but now they're kind of pulling back and wanting the hotel stays more,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you can say the market is softening, but to have that risk management, my husband and I, we've kind of switched our strategy to only buy large homes. That's the kind of the common thread throughout our whole portfolio is it's
Mhm.
large, usually multi-generational family stays. Because what we have seen is that's not going away.
Yeah.
When you're coming with like your family and your aunts and your uncles and your cousins, you usually don't want to book that hotel because you're going to be separated. You want one conjoined house, ideally, and large properties, I don't think are going away in short-term rentals. And so that's
Yeah.
our portfolio is a lot of those large 6+ bedroom homes. And like I said, different properties of ours have different looks and feel, but it's the same audience and they just may have different reasons for travel and going to different locations in the US.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. The kind of family gathering is always, I always have stayed in short term rentals. I just don't like hotels personally, but it's for the same reasons as you're saying, because I want to have the kitchen. I am not going out to eat every single meal. I like a kitchen. I like laundry. I mean, if you have kids, if you're just a family of 4 total, it's just a better stay. Like there's just only so much you can get done in a hotel room that doesn't have laundry and a kitchen. There's just, so I think that's still going to be out there. But I think you're also giving yourself better leverage on your resale value because those larger homes are still going to likely be in demand if you turn to sell them. Because then you have the 2 portals. You have, hey, here's all of our Airbnb revenue. We're killing it. But also, someone may love the design and just want to live there if you look to turn to sell it later.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And those homes are appreciating faster than
Yeah.
small properties.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How do you started in Phoenix, but of those 34, how geographically spread out are you, and are you able to manage it? How are you able to manage it?
Yeah, no, great question. We are pretty spread out, but a lot in the Midwest and the East Coast, just, for reasons of home prices are more reasonable. We're getting a higher cash flow
Yeah.
on Midwestern homes or East Coast homes. So we have some in Phoenix, Florida, Virginia, Rhode Island, a lot in Ohio, some in Michigan,
Oh,
some in
nice.
Oklahoma, kind of all over the place. We don't actually, our one West Coast property is in Bandon, Oregon. And that was kind of a selfish reason for my husband to go there. He's a big golfer and it's a
Yeah,
golf home in Bandon, Oregon. And it's absolutely crushing it because it's super niche and tailored to golf groups and it's right by the course.
yeah,
So the management of it, that's actually my husband's piece. We're kind of like a good sandwich where he is finding the properties, underwriting them. He's working with real estate agents and some of our properties we have partnerships on. So he's also working with a partner.
yeah.
And then my team is the design and the setup and then goes back to his team for management. So he
Oh,
has
great.
about 9 employees who manage his properties and they're managing it remotely. We have a few groupings that are large enough where cleaning and service is
Yeah,
in-house. We
yeah,
just have hired local labor. Some of the one-off properties, like one in Bandon, Oregon, we don't have, an in-house cleaning
yeah.
group over there. We just use local contractors. but we're managing it from a distance. We go out for the initial setup, and then we do some maintenance travel to go out, like our team does, to go and check in on the property and do like a maintenance run.
Yeah. For someone who's listening to this and they're looking to get their first short-term rental, just geographically, based on your experience and all of your clients' experience, how would you tell them to choose the first geographical location for them? I want to see if it's what I think.
Yeah. That's the hardest part in this is like the decision fatigue of where to invest. And my husband actually does coaching as well, and he works with a lot of, clients that have that, same question. So I'll share our strategy. There's so many different strategies, but this is what we do personally.
Yeah.
So we find major cities, and then we look at what are the drivable markets from that major city. And those are usually the hidden gems because
Yeah.
markets like Miami, Phoenix, Scottsdale, California, they're oversaturated. And honestly, the home prices are too high to make, the short-term rental make sense for cash flow. Cause that's the reason that we're getting into this game is it's not passive. It's very active income.
Yeah.
Cash
Very
flow,
active. Yeah.
very active. So we are in, like I said, those big cities, but where are the drivable markets? So not like a major national market where people all over the country are flying in, where are they traveling to? So we're finding better home prices and still competition, but not as much competition where we can be a top 1% property.
Yeah. So part of what I think when I'm talking to people and they ask my advice, I always say like, well, where do you want to go? Because the reason I had short-term rentals when I first had them was because those were places that my sister and I wanted to go. And then we would just use them. So I always, what do you think of that as an idea? Like for your first one, obviously, once you operationalize, you've proven it, you can get them anywhere. You just have to, the operations and you just have to find the people to be involved. But I feel like people make it too hard on themselves by looking at, lists of, the best 100 markets for short-term rentals instead of thinking, well, where do I want to go so I can get a free stay 3 or 4 times a year? That always seems like a good thing because then you at least know, hey, well, I can use it, and then I feel like people do well on their first one if they are their guest avatar because that's who they know best and they don't know anything, especially if they're not getting help from people like you guys.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I think it's great for first-time investors to really get their feet, wet in it and get their hands dirty, you could say, of having something that's ideally, close to them so they can drive out every once in a while and walk the property and be there on the setup and, maybe do a few cleanings and just understand the operations of it. It's important for business owners in
I
general
agree.
to touch every aspect of your business before you outsource. And so location, if you live in a place where there's a nice market, close to you, drivable distance, I would go for that. And then, yeah, it's funny. People think that we just travel all the time to our Airbnbs, but we actually never use our properties,
Yeah.
usually because they're more expensive than we would even want to
Yeah,
book.
right. And you're so operationalized. It's like to use them well, you basically go when no one's there. So that's why
Yeah.
again it needs to be close by so you can, oh, look, it's open for 4 days. I'll just go.
Just go and stay there, make sure the beds are good, everything's working, the water's hot, all that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
That's
But
important
actually this
though.
year,
Yeah.
my husband and I just, sat down and did our 2026 planning. And a big part of that is, okay, where are we investing? What's our goal? Like, for example, this year, my husband and I just turned 30. So our goal was to have 30 properties by the time we turned 30. We were ending the year at 34. So we,
Oh, that's
we
awesome.
hit that goal. But next year, we're like, okay, what's the new goal? And actually something that we wrote down was we want to buy properties that we actually want to stay in, which is a new concept for us.
Yeah.
We've always just gone for like, where's the money? Where are we going to get the best return? So we wrote down Hawaii, which is crazy because regulations there are insane, but we feel like we have enough experience and we can work with it. So it's going to be tough to find a property that pencils, but it's, we live in Utah, so it's not too bad of a flight to get over to Hawaii, and we would love that. So we'll see if that will be in our 2026, actuals, but it's in the plan.
Well, you got the good thing is now because you have so many others, if you get one on purpose that you're going to use twice a year and it doesn't cash flow heavy like the rest, you're still hedged against all of the other ones that are crushing it and that you're never going to. That's kind of why it's good that you started, built up operationally, understand all the aspects. So if you do decide, hey, we're going to break even in Hawaii, that's going to be a really nice break even.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's not where you start, but yeah, once you build to a certain point, you can go and do those things.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest mistakes you think people are making in terms of short-term rental design and even operationalization now? Where do you see the biggest mistakes, especially because you come in when people maybe they've had a property and like you said, they want to refresh, where are the blunders occurring?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake is people just taking shots in the dark and not looking at data, not coming up with a strategy. And it's a time crunch. When you're under contract, there's so much, that goes into it. Then you close on a property and you're stressed. You're like, I've got to get this up and running and cash flowing as soon as possible. So a lot of times it's that stress that forces people into just making decisions and
Oh,
those
yeah, that's a
shots in the
great
dark
point. Yeah.
and just clicking purchase, I need a couch, I need a rug, I need a hot tub, I need and
No
just
overall design
putting it
theory, just
together.
like, hey, it's November and we need to operationalize. Let's get that and that. And then they just put the
Yeah.
stuff in the house. Yeah, it's a
And
good point.
I'd say that's the biggest mistake. Think of it as a business. You're going to come in, if you want to set yourself up for success, you're going to have a business plan and a marketing plan. So once you find the home, immediately get into the strategy, run your market research, look at the data, come up with that plan, come up with a theme. And I would also say, don't be afraid to niche down on a theme.
Yeah.
That's a big
Yeah.
mistake is people just try to appeal to the masses and be too general. But then you're
I
becoming an
completely
average
agree.
property and you're competing on price and you're dropping your price last minute because you're not getting booked out far in advance because people aren't just seeking out your property.
Yeah.
It's interesting because this this industry, I mean, when people book your property, that's it. It's booked for a weekend. No one else can book it. And so those prime weekends, that the health of your listing or your Airbnb is great when people are booking it out far in advance because they're thinking, I've got to snag this before
Gotta
somebody
lock
else.
it up. Yeah.
So niching down on a unique experience, I would say, is another mistake that people don't do. They
Yeah.
just say, I want to make it general and I want to make sure everybody feels like they could stay here.
Hey, it's Jonathan. I hope you're enjoying this episode with Bri West. And if you have a short-term rental or you're getting into short-term rentals, I think we may have found an option for you. Go to somerleddesigns.com. There you can find out how to increase your ROI through design. You can also figure it out by listening to the back half of this podcast as well. If you don't have enough information already, you can do a free consultation. Bri tells you on this show, they do them all the time. It's a great option for you, and it can help you build up that first year that sets the trajectory the right way. Let's get back to Bri. Yuck. I mean, my own personal experience, I never stay in that place. It's just fine. It's like the backup. You know what I mean? Like if you're booking late and nothing else there and it looks clean, okay, I'll stay there. But they're making, like you said, very low on the ADR compared to everything else. And they're really everybody's backup because it's just, it's basic. And a lot of times those ones don't look as good even in person because that, like if basic was their best photos, it doesn't get better with time.
No, it's true. And think about like the psychology of marketing and somebody who is booking. Okay, the people you want to capture those who are booking at a premium rate
Yeah,
and are
yeah.
willing to open up their wallet. So let's take, for example, a friend group. Okay, you assign someone in the friend group to go book a property. They feel like the weight of the world on their shoulders. They're like,
Yeah.
I need to book something cool because I don't want people to show up and feel disappointed.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they're looking like every night on their phone, on their app, and they're trying to find the best property. And you want to give them that so that they feel proud to show their friend group, like, look at this gem that I found. And then everyone is willing to pay that premium price because they're going for vacation purposes. I would say too, where you really get into the high cash flowing asset for short-term rentals is when you're in vacation markets and people
Yeah.
are booking for vacation reasons, not, oh, I'm going to book to, go for a work event or go to a funeral or go to a wedding because those are your budget, guests who
Right,
don't
right.
care. They're just like, I need a bed to sleep on and I'm not going to stay here because I want an experience. I'm just going to stay here because it's budget friendly.
Yeah, and I mean, if you got a good deal on that and you knew that was what you were going for, that's a fine strategy if you know what you're doing. But if you really want to crush, you can't go in the mid game. And I think we found, during COVID, people got so lucky. Short-term rental owners got so lucky because everybody was just booking like even the worst of the worst. But a lot of those operators are now opting out because they cannot keep up with the table stakes that's coming. If you have just a regular operator who's doing a general and then they come next door and you guys help somebody design next door, they're going to get blown out of the water. And the people are going to see that's next door. They could be looking and just saying like, we're really at a loss here. So you talked about this before. I do really think it's very, very competitive. But what I think is awesome about it, as I talked about before, you can see the competition. Just look on Airbnb. You can see it. Like people are like, oh, I don't want to get AirDNA. It's like, you don't have to get AirDNA. Just go on Airbnb like you're a booker and just plug in the town that you're interested in and look at every single thing that's there. And you'll know exactly what you have to do to get there. You may not know how much it costs, but that's where you guys come in so you can help them figure out what the cost. And don't you find that people, they're not judging the cost right because they're thinking, oh, well, I have to pay X for this, but they think the design is like not going to cost a lot. And it costs a lot because, as you said in the beginning, they first don't think of it as an investment in the future cash flow of this business.
Yeah. And we're unique as a designer because we're investment first. When you get on a consultation call with us, we're actually not talking about design. We don't care. And you shouldn't care about the design. You should just care if your goals, let's say it's not your second home, but you're going to use it for your own purpose. But if your goal is to cash flow as much as possible, you shouldn't care about the design and you should take your personal preferences out of it and wait for the research and the data to inform what design is. So our consultation call is all about the numbers. And we want to help investors make informed decisions. So we recommend as soon as you go under contract, we're kind of part of your due diligence for your investment. Get on a call with us and we're walking you through all the numbers and we're conservative. We show an investment analysis and we say, okay, here's your property. Here's the competitive rating. Some markets you do have to spend more in than others just by nature of the competition. So we'll say, here's the competitive rating, and that puts you into the X category of how much to spend on furniture and amenities. And then we'll look at your home because every property is different in terms of, do we need to, paint a lot in this house? Do we need to do any, light cosmetic work or major construction? And we will run those numbers with you. And you need to make sure you're not just leaving a little cash left over for the design and the setup. It costs a lot to do it. So have that in your investment analysis and be very conservative with the amenity line item, the design line item, and construction.
Yeah. Do you think that the amount that a property sleeps is always important? Because I'm just not a bunk beds person. If on a family getaway, sure, like the basement should have like maybe 2 bunk beds so you have like all kids sleep together. But I look at some of these properties and it's like a nice 4-bedroom and then 3 of the rooms have bunk beds. I'm like, adults don't want to stay in bunk beds. No. You know what I mean? These are people who don't contact design firms to help because it's just like they're trying to sleep 14 when it's really just a 3-bedroom.
No, I love this question because it is this balance of you want to show up on search as much as possible because the way the Airbnb filter is, you put in the number of guests who are traveling. You don't put in how many bedrooms you want.
Yeah.
I have 12 guests coming with me, so you're going to show up. But people will click on your property, but then immediately bounce because they look and they check on the bed arrangement before they book. I would say first they look at photos and that earns the click into the listing. Then they're looking at the bed arrangement and saying, is this going to be comfortable for my group? And if it's not, they're like, nope, that's not even an option for me. I'm not going to stay there and have adults sleep on the bunk bed. So it comes down to, we actually have an entire strategy around the bed arrangement. And we look at the target audience and we say, okay, here's how many bedrooms we have to work with, or maybe there's a common space where we can put, a sleeper sofa or something if it's going to make sense. And we'll say, okay, we have a multi-generational family. We need X amount of single king rooms. King beds are king. They're
right for adults.
For adults, we will do a king as many times as we can over a queen. There's some bedrooms that are teeny tiny and we just can't get away with a king, but people look for kings. So how many like single king rooms do we need? Okay, then we look to other demographics like the teenagers of the home. They're comfortable sleeping in maybe a queen by queen bed. Then you got the kids who can go in the bunk room. But even like it's important to think about safety and not have a bunk room. People do garage conversions all the time and just deck it out with bunk rooms. And I'm like, I'm a mom of 3, and you need to think about the safety of your kids, because that is also a priority for moms who are booking.
Yeah.
And if your bunk room, let's say, has an exterior door, they're going to not feel safe there. Or they're
You
going to
always know when a non-parent
a bad review.
Yeah. I was saying you always know when a non-parent set up the design, because you're just looking at it like, what? Yeah, as you said, there's an exterior door. Like, are you crazy? No one's staying there. Or it's a basement with no windows, and the parent bedroom's on the top floor. Like, no, our kids are only 7. Like, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
They're too far away.
So it's important. That's a huge deciding factor of if they're going to book your property or not. So you need to pay attention to it, and you need to come in with a strategy. But then, yes, for search optimization, ideally you are showing up on search if you can, if it's comfortable. So it's that balance of finding that right in between with bed arrangement and search. But another example is if we're doing, let's say, girl groups like the Nashville Bachelorettes, we're not going to do bunk beds, even the girl group. So you don't want to sleep on the top bunk. So we're going to opt for a queen by queen bed, like hotel style. That's comfortable. Girls are happy sharing rooms. But then let's take, for example, the golf groups. We've actually done a lot of golf properties, and men are coming, and there's maybe a group of 4 or a group of 8 for golf. They don't want to share rooms ideally. Like, if we
I was about to say, like, it's not for me.
They don't want to share beds. We're not counting a queen bed as 2, because no 2 grown men are going to sleep in the bed together. You have to think about those things and look to your group and meet them where they're at with their expectations.
Yeah, and I think you were talking about niching down. I love it. I think it's so smart, and I think the niche properties always do the best, but I think people are just scared of it because they think, well, I'm only going to book maybe 129 nights. Well, you will, but you're going to make way more if you did a general property and book 280 nights. They just don't see it that way because they don't understand the ADR, right?
Yeah. So going back to our consultation call where we run the investment analysis, we're always looking back to that investment analysis and tweaking it along the way if decisions change. And what we'll do is we're going to run, and we use AirDNA and the data from AirDNA, and we look at the 50th percentile, so your average properties. And then we look at a 75th percentile. And we're conservative and say, with strategic design, you're going to at least be in the 75th percentile in your market. And so we'll look at the difference there. And we want to make sure that every decision is getting you to, the maximizing your property, but we're always underwriting it, in a conservative way.
Yeah, I think that's important because they do have to be set up. They are going to have some overage that they're going to have to pay to get the thing started. So the profits generally, you can make money in year 1, but you really start crushing it in year 3 if you keep getting better and better. But it's a hard look for someone who's new, who gets, someone tells them, hey, get a short-term rental. They kind of get one with a random realtor who doesn't know anything about short-term rentals. And then they start designing themselves. And then they're like, I'm not making any money. So I'm sure people come to you kind of in a disaster mode. Do you guys sometimes help people and you're like, what? What were you thinking? This has no thought put to it. Because I just see them all the time. I mean, if you just go on Airbnb, every area has the ones where you're like, I cannot believe this makes 80 grand. There must be nothing else good in the area, which is a ding ding moment. Like, get one in the area. You can make 80 grand with something terrible.
Oh my gosh. We love entering markets where we look at the competition and we're like, oh yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
We're going to crush it.
Yeah.
But I know especially first time investors, be weary and talk to people. Ask, your real estate agent, I would go with a short-term rental specific real estate agent if you can find one, because they're going to underwrite it different than a regular real estate agent. But you also have to remember at the end of the day, they want to sell you the home. So then go talk to a designer. Our consultation calls are free. Get our numbers, and we're going to tell you how much to spend on furniture and amenities and construction, and then our design cost. And then if you can, go talk to a coach or somebody to look at underwriting, someone who's established in the industry and knows what they're doing, so that it's a great lucrative investment. But we do see people all the time who come in and they just don't have budget. And they're like, I didn't know it was going to cost this much. And then they're scrambling, they closed on a property and they need to get it listed, but they don't have the cash. They didn't plan ahead of time.
Yeah.
That's a scary spot to be in. It's just kind of starting your business on the wrong foot.
Right. You buy a short-term rental that was doing poorly operationally, and then you don't take any money out for renovation. So you just do the same thing. I mean, that's just a terrible business strategy. But I think, as we both said, it's because they're not looking at it as a business. They're thinking, well, this is just an investment that will definitely cash flow, because short-term rentals cash flow, and they don't all cash flow. A lot
No.
of them don't.
No, not anymore, especially in the major markets. We get Gatlinburg redesigns all the
Oh,
time. It's
that, I mean, well, talk about a market like that where it's really all short-term rentals, especially like in those developments. They're built for short-term rentals. The developments love short-term rentals, but like your neighbors are all your competition, which in some ways is bad and in some ways is good, because everyone's going there. It's not like it's not going to be a destination. But how do you compete in that market that is highly saturated with very good operators and companies that help operators, like in a place like Gatlinburg?
Yeah, and you're right. There's builders that furnish the homes. That's very common in Gatlinburg. But why would you go into that investment knowing that this builder has built, 50 homes that are
The
identical? You
same, yeah.
can't compete with that.
Right.
So,
McMansion short-term rentals make no sense.
yeah, and so we get Gatlinburg mostly redesigns. I think a lot of people aren't maybe we're not seeing a lot of new investment there. It's more people that, okay, they have a great interest rate, doesn't really make sense to sell, but it's just not
Yeah.
cash flowing, diminishing returns. And so they look back to, how can I market this different, and design as your marketing tool, or a big marketing tool. And so it's all about the brand recognition. And that takes time though. So like the brand recognition is the long game, to
Yeah.
come up with a unique theme, a unique brand, have a social media presence, get people in there. You can pay influencers, you
Yeah.
can pay travel influencers to get the name out. But that's the long game. The short game is amenities and the photos and updating your
Oh, yeah.
listing.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of amenities in Gatlinburg. Hot tub, number one. You can't be in Gatlinburg without a hot tub. But you
Table
have to think,
stakes. Yeah.
when you sell the hot tub, you can't just put a hot tub in and feel like you're checking the box. You have to sell that thing. So we'll get unique hot tubs that are like a wood hot tub that's on a deck that has a
Right.
view. And in the photo strategy, we'll put models in the hot tub
Of
and
course.
you
Yeah.
edit the photo with steam and a great sunset. So when people are flipping through and looking at your picture, your hot tub stands out. And maybe on another listing, they don't notice the hot tub, but it's just the
Yeah,
market
but
game.
have you ever? I've seen. I mean, this is where people like they do a good job and then they just make small errors. Like they have a sweet hot tub with a view and it's like 33rd in the photo reel. Like, no one's getting to 33. Like you have to be in the top 5. Like you got to get your money shots in there. And they think they've done it and then they lose a detail, but that could lose you an enormous amount of bookings if your view shot or your hot tub shot or your sauna overlooking a mountain is like past photo 20, right?
No, you do not go in chronological order. Your brain wants to think that way.
It's not a house
No,
listing.
you
Yeah.
do. You don't show the front entry and then the hallway and then the bathroom.
Right.
No, you've got to show all your
The
parts
foyer
of-
number 2 is a real mistake for short-term rentals.
Yes.
No one cares about it.
And actually, the same principle applies to budgeting for design. We map out from the beginning what are going to be your high impact spaces, aka your top 5 to 10 photos.
Yeah.
And that's where we put majority of the budget. Bedroom number 5, low budget.
Yeah.
Primary bedroom, high budget.
Yeah.
Amenity spaces are the highest amount of budgets, because that's what increases your ADR. That
Yeah.
you can
You made it.
better amenities.
Yeah, it's a great point though about the 5th bedroom, because I think people, once you're in the 4 bedrooms and up, the last bedroom does not get used all the time, probably almost not even 50% of the time, because if you're going for a good stay, maybe it's just you and 2 kids, so that's 4, or 2 couples, that's only 2 bedrooms, but 2 couples can afford a really sweet place, so maybe they get a 4 bedroom because it's nicer, than the 2 bedrooms that are out there. So yeah, I think it's really important for people to figure out, like you said, what are your top 5 shots? What's going to be in that little 5-box icon that people can look at, so they're going, oh wow, that first photo is huge, and seasonally it's huge. My pet peeve is seeing snow pictures in the middle of summer. It's just annoying. Why are they there? Just refresh them. It's summer. There's no snow. We're not skiing anymore. those, no one's paying attention to the listing, and that's where the revenue is going to go as well.
No, you have to absolutely sell the experience and the feeling that people want to have. So snow is not the feeling of that year that they want to have.
Right. Yeah.
And also, kind of back to that bedroom concept, I will tell you, whoever is staying, if anyone does stay in the fifth bedroom, they're not the one who's booking, and they're not the one who's
Right.
leaving you a review.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're not paying much attention.
Yeah. We always say that the booker, you got to have a booker's suite, that ensuite bathroom. That's for whoever's
Yeah.
paying. And maybe they're collecting from everybody else, but whoever makes that decision is taking the good room with the ensuite. But look, a lot of short-term rentals have, 2, 3 ensuites, which is great as well. So everybody can kind of get in there on those group stays. But you were talking a lot about Nashville and the kind of bachelorette stay. And I remember when like ultra niche started going crazy and I was seeing fully designed short-term rentals for bachelorettes. And it was that same response. Someone was saying like, well, men are never going to stay there. And you're like, yeah, exactly. Like, we're going to make enough money doing this. How do you convince someone that a niche strategy in a market is correct? Obviously data first, but like sometimes people are just not going to be able to wrap their head around such a niche strategy because they think they'll lose, right?
Yeah. And going back to what you were saying earlier about your occupancy will be lower, most likely, with the niche audience. So it comes down to numbers. You need to run scenarios and go for the scenario that's going to make you the most money.
Right.
So you can look at numbers on AirDNA and you can stock down the listings that are clearly bachelorette listings. Look at their occupancy, look at their ADR, take those averages, put that into a tab on your investment analysis that's titled Bachelorette Group. Then you can make another tab, Music Group, music.
Yeah.
You can make a tab that's general and just look at all those scenarios and look at what people are doing. Now, there's so many different variables to it. Like, you can't trust their property management, their pricing strategy, all of that. But
the
more data you have, the more those variables won't matter. And you can say, all right, of those, let's take a batch of 50 bachelorette properties that I found. The occupancy is 50%. That's lower than I thought it was going to be, but the ADR is
huge,
$900. They're booking just the weekends, but they're booking high on the weekends. And you're cutting out 50% of the population by saying no men want to stay here. But when it comes down to it, women are usually willing to pay more and they're willing to pay for that experience. Other than, I would say, aside from men who are going on golf trips, that's why we love the golf houses, because that's their one trip a year where they're like, I want to splurge. And then they get into that spending mindset. You want to get people they're booking a vacation far out in advance. They want to experience. They're coming to have a good time and they're coming to open up their wallet. Like they're saving up, or they're, maybe it's like one of 2 big trips in the year.
Yeah.
And that's the niche audience who is really going to get you that higher overall return. It doesn't matter if your occupancy is lower, if your ADR is so much higher that scenario is getting you a higher revenue and return than a general case.
Yeah, I think that applies for families too. If they book it out 6 months in advance, like you already know they've paid for a good stay. So they're going to do a lot of other stuff and they're going to use the video games and they're going to go, they're going to play pickleball. Because like this for some people, it's going to, if you're not just like a kind of weekend getaway and you're doing larger ones for week stays, people are going to use all the stuff. I mean, the more amenities, the better. That's where you really ramp up. On those larger scale properties, are you seeing any new amenities? Obviously, we know hot tubs, pickle is obviously getting cool now. Decent cost to put in. Pools, of course, when necessary, especially in markets, but pools are table stakes in hot markets. What new amenities are you seeing that you think can make a difference in 2026?
Yeah, good question. Again, it comes down to like the reason for booking. We're seeing a lot of wellness amenities.
Yeah,
it's just
that's my thing.
becoming a trend that people are burnt out. They want to go on vacation to get away from their day-to-day life and relax. And usually they're traveling with hopefully people that are important to them, they want to spend time with. So wellness amenities like saunas, red light, cold plunges, but make sure if you're going to go in on a theme like wellness and go all in on it, your amenities need to be an experience that they don't get to have very often.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
if you're going to do a sauna, don't just put a sauna in a basement, because then the experience is I'm just getting in there to sweat.
Right.
A
That's
sauna,
just having a sauna. That's
that's
not an
just checking a
experience.
box, and it's not adding
It's a good point.
value. Like they could go to their gym and step in a sauna
Yeah.
if they wanted
Yeah.
to. But let's take couples retreats, for example. That's a huge, audience that we're seeing an increase with.
Yep.
And again, it's that connection that people are craving. And so couples retreats, we did this one in Broken Bow, Oklahoma, that had a deck that was very private. And we intentionally put a barrel sauna on the
Yeah,
deck. Had
with the
to add
view.
some support to the deck, but it was important, so important that we added support to do a barrel sauna, and we had a great glass back to this
Yeah,
sauna.
that's
So
awesome.
the couple could sit in it, enjoy nature, and they're not just there to sweat. They're there to like connect with each other and be in this sauna and have a cool view and maybe take some photos or
Yeah.
videos. So
Yep.
I would say wellness amenities. For big family gatherings, just anything that's like fun. Usually it's a mom or a grandma who's booking, and they care about their kids or their grandkids having a good time. They don't care so much about themselves.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
these
Right.
selfless
They
people.
I
So
need a giant Connect 4. That's not for the 75-year-olds.
they're like, I'm not going to play that, but they just want to sit back and watch their family have a great time. So the pickleball courts or any of those like outdoor games, you can do frisbee golf.
Yeah.
You can do the putting greens, but making it like a course so people can get competitive with it and having different holes on the putting
I,
green.
I love it. I've seen even 3 holes of putt on a smaller area. I was saying to somebody on LinkedIn, I'm like, of course I would play that. Who's not playing miniature golf? You know what I mean? That to me,
Yeah.
it's like everyone would play a little bit. It's great.
No, families want to get competitive. That's what's fun.
Yeah.
Adding a little like an outdoor bowling setup, like that's probably not normal. Like I just crave going and playing outdoor bowling, but if it's there, they're going to play it. And
Oh, I would. Yeah,
they're going to add,
I've seen golf simulators going in as well into
yeah,
garages, and I think those are again, it's another competitive but fun and things that a lot of people can do. But multiple amenities for these large properties are important because you can have kids doing one, adults doing one, grandparents, doing something else. It's important, and that's why figuring out what their goal is and what their why is and who their guest avatar is really important, or else you can really just make a mistake on a whole property that could set you back, years in terms of income.
yeah, exactly. You're already going to spend the money. Let's say it takes $100,000 to furnish it and add the amenities. You're already going to expend it. Just do it right. You don't want to spend it. Again, that biggest mistake that I see is taking the shots in the dark, because you have to have beds, you have to have couches, you already need to spend it. Do it the right way to market your property.
Yeah, the points you were making before in terms of the time frame, I was just seeing it because it was just end of year, and I work upstate New York for a lot of clients, and they were like, "We want to close before the end of the year." I'm like, "Listen, it takes a long time to close here, so it's not happening." But you can see the ones who close right at the end, and they're trying to operationalize fast. They'll almost do anything. And sure, if you do it just for the tax benefits, you can slip it in there, get 2 stays, off Airbnb.
Yeah,
But once you start to go on full market, you better be ready to go.
I agree. We run into that every end of year where we have a project management service, we have a virtual design service, and then you can do a project management add-on. Everyone's opting for project management at the end of the year because they need it. They need it up.
Fast. Yeah.
But the people who close on homes like in December where it's impossible, you're not getting it set up.
Yeah.
I hear them. Yeah, throw some beds in there, get a stay, get it on your books. So the tax savings.
Yeah, get the tax savings. Just don't put it out.
Yeah. Don't let that be the end of it.
Yeah.
Go in January and February and really do it right, and then start operating in the springtime.
Yeah. For you guys, if you're doing 70 a month, how are you handling that type of volume?
Yeah, so it's been like obviously a tricky business to scale. It's a service business, and every design is fresh and unique, and every property is different. It's kind of like scaling this unscalable business, but it's been a challenge and it's been fun. So the focus has really been on the operations of our business. Luckily, we've had great success with partnerships who are referring business to us, and that's a great problem to have, that our demand has been there, and we've just been trying to keep up with the demand and making sure operations are right. So we now have a team for like every step of the way, which I think makes the service that much stronger, that we have a team dedicated to the strategy portion. Then we have a team dedicated to the design portion. Then we have a team who's checking the design and making sure all the links and everything is accurate. The documentation is right. Then we have, if you're doing project management, the project management team. We have a photography team because on our project management service, we're booking the photographer and our team is there on site for the setup and through the photo shoot. So the photography team, it's that, don't skimp on photography.
Yeah,
Do not skimp on photography. Do
people
it right.
book from your photos. They don't go to see the place first. The photos are literally the gateway to your whole property.
Yeah. And you usually don't, again, get referrals because people aren't saying, oh, I stayed at this property, go book it. Usually it's fresh and new. You're just opening up the Airbnb app and you're looking at photos. That's all you have for marketing. So our photography strategy team is finding the right photographers and creating a shot list. And we're also hiring models.
Definitely.
Lifestyle photography has really just leveled up the game because it's helping people imagine their group in the home and just increasing your marketing strength. So we have the photography team, we have an installation team, like every touch point we have now, which, in the beginning, it wasn't like that. It started with just myself and my business partner, Jordan, and we were doing everything and touching it on, wearing all the hats, and it was great. But I think as we have scaled, it's honestly made our service even better. And so that's where we're at today. We have a team of over 130 people to deliver these 70 projects every month. And honestly, I just feel like there's so much still, out there because we usually work with first-time investors or people who are under contract, like new homes. We haven't yet gone after all the ones who are, not seeing the returns that they used to be seeing. They naturally come to us, but we're not seeking those people out. So I know there's so much opportunity as this industry gets more competitive. Design is becoming a non-negotiable. You just have to have it to hit your investment goals.
I agree. Before we hop off, just on that experiential photography, I mean, for people who don't get it, just look at the photos of a fire pit and then a fire pit with people, or a hot tub and then a hot tub with people, or putt-putt and people actually doing putt-putt. It's insane the amount of enjoyment that you get as a viewer and the higher chance of booking by seeing people doing the things. A fire pit with no fire is just crazy at this point. A fire pit with a good fire and no people, okay, that's good. But people with s'mores, just an absolute game changer.
Yeah. The photos are like the last 10 yards. Just do it. Just,
I know. The cost differential too. It's so worth it. It's just unbelievable.
But it's one of those things, again, like you are in a time crunch and it's the last thing that you need before you list. And so people wait for the very end, and then the best photographers are booked out and they don't come in with a game plan. You need to be planning all of these things well in advance. And I agree with you. The lifestyle photographies, just naturally humans, they connect more with those photos when they see people in them. It calls their attention. So it's 100% worth it.
I agree. All right. Bri, is the best place for people to get in touch with you guys at somerleddesigns.com?
Yes, that's right.
And that's SOMERLED designs.com, just so they know. And they can look over past projects and everything there. I was on the site before surfing around, right?
Right. You can also follow us on Instagram, somerled.designs. We post a lot more there. So even if you're looking for inspiration, it's a good follow.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I really appreciate it. I know people got a lot of good tips, and hopefully they take them into account when they go into their short-term rental journey. So thanks so much for spending the time.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. All right, that was Bri West of Somerled Designs. I told you where to find them, somerleddesigns.com. I'm Jonathan Greene. We'll see you next episode. Thanks for sticking around to the end so you can get a preview of who's coming up on the next episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. Episode 315 brings Nick Corwin. He is one of the two minds behind Oak and Ember, a small Nordic-inspired micro-resort in Wisconsin opening this year. Oak and Ember is their way of merging two things, designing a place they'd be thrilled to stay at themselves and opening the doors to other couples, families, and small groups. Can't wait to go micro-resort with Nick. We'll see you next episode.